This is a short talk detailing my outdoor training system. It's not a presentation in the conventional sense or like a webinar or whatever. There are no slides, so the image on the screen is not going to change. So you can minimize the window, just listen to the audio if you want. I do think that you should get a notebook and pen and take down some notes about what I'm going to talk about. Perhaps listen to this a few times because I am going to give you at least the bones of a complete training system that you could, with a little bit of critical thinking, adapt and apply as soon as today if you thought it was appropriate. But before I get into the system itself, I do need to detail who it's for. That's principally two groups of people. The first are those who are fed up of breathing in other people's sweat while they train in a gym. And that was me. It's actually why I put this together, honestly. It's been 15 years, week in, week out, without fail, of training in a gym. And I woke up one morning, so I've had enough of this. So I invented this system, which I've been using for a fair bit of time now, with great results. I'll talk more about that in a bit. So yeah, that's the first group, people who are just done with training in a gym. The second group are parents or anyone really who wants to inspire someone important to them, thinking wife, girlfriend, to train. Because the nature of the system means that people that you live with, so wife, girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, kids, are going to see you training. So you're going to show them what a balanced, sensible relationship with exercise looks like, which is far and away better than telling them. It's also more immediate. Obviously, when you're going off to the gym, it's some distant, faraway land, quite detached from their reality. But if you do as I do, start your training, finish your training at home, and you're doing it regularly, they cannot help but foster an interest in them. Yeah, at least that's my experience. Yours may differ, of course. There is a degree of overlap in those two groups. People who are parents or have a partner or spouse they want to get into training or also fed up with the gym. Perhaps they're the perfect people to be doing this. But anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. So let's get on to the system itself. I'm not going to bore you with silly case studies and testimonials that you get in these sorts of presentations normally. I'm just going to get straight into the good stuff, which I'm not actually doing right now, am I? Because I'm going off on a tangent. Sorry. So the system itself, then, it's composed of two elements. You have the bodyweight workouts, which, as I say, you can do at or close to home, ideally in the outdoors. You've got a park local to you that you can, with a pull-up bar in it, you're good to go. Something you can do pull-ups off safely. And then there's endurance cardio element to it as well. So first part is the bodyweight component. And these are caveman simple workouts. They really are. Literally all you do is you take a warm up. My preference for a warm up is a short walk, generally a couple of minutes, not more than a couple of minutes, followed by some basic stretches, the stuff that you learned in school of all the major muscle groups. So off the top of my head, you've got arms, so biceps, triceps, shoulders, upper back, hips, hamstrings, quads, and just stretch those. Just basic stretches, kind of a couple of stretches of 8 seconds each. Just deep enough to feel it, but not pushing it. We're preparing the body for exercise, not trying to become gymnasts or whatever. So that's what I do by way of warm up. Then there's a cardio element to the bodyweight workout, which is a short run. I do a third of a mile to the local park. You may want to do less than that, but generally speaking, we're talking about kind of 2 to 3 minutes of a basic form of cardiovascular exercise. If you're doing this at home, I know this is outdoor training, but state of the UK these days, you may not want to train outdoors if your local area is infested by roadmen or whatever. Then in that case, you do it at home on like an exercise bike. 2 to 3 minutes on that would be fine. That's your cardio element to begin. Then there's body weight component, which consists of 3 movement patterns. You have a squat, a press, and a pull. So Most basic form of those are bodyweight squats, press ups, and pull ups. Obviously, you can do any variation of those that you like. So a lot of people can't do pull-ups, for example. No shame if you can't do pull-ups. I couldn't do pull-ups for a long time. It was about a year of training before I couldn't handle pull-ups. In which case, inverted rows are a perfectly fine substitute. You could do hangs from the bar. You could do negative pull-ups, or you could do a mixture of all three of those until you're ready to do pull-ups proper, and then you start substituting the harder, um, some of the easier variations with the harder variation, and you make up the numbers with the easier variations. Makes sense in a roundabout way. It's one of those things you're going to have to listen to multiple times, which is why I say you should listen to this multiple times. Make some notes. And obviously, same applies to press ups. I know particularly ladies struggle with press ups. Jess is doing this training system at the moment, and she can't do full push ups. She just does girly push ups to hit her numbers, and is getting to the point now, I believe, where she's starting to do like one or two regular push ups and then making the remainder of her numbers up with the easier variation. And then squats. Again, bodyweight squats are brilliant, brilliant exercise. Massively underrated. People think if it's not a barbell back squat, it's no good. Well, that's just categorically not the case. So, yeah, bodyweight squats are good. If you want to make things a little harder, and um, if you've got the requisite equipment, because you'll need something to hold on to, you can do sissy squats. They're a favourite of the legendary late Vince Gironda. He was a huge proponent of sissy squats for building quads. I love them. I can't do more than five at a time. They're that tough. Um, or jump squats are another squat variation. You can do lunges, I suppose. But yeah, bodyweight squats should probably be your meat and potatoes 9 times out of 10. And again, if you want to work in some harder variations, so we talked about working in the easier variations, using the harder variations to make up the number, working from the easy stuff and then introducing the hard stuff. You do very much the same with the bodyweight squats, or you can do base the most easy variation, which is the bodyweight squat, and then you can add in at the end some of the harder variation to stretch yourself. So say some sissy squats. So a typical session for me will include about 125 bodyweight squats total, done in sets of 25, because I struggle with mathematics and counting. And then I'll do perhaps 2 or 3 sets of 5 sissy squats just to pump up the numbers. And speaking of those numbers, you're going to work towards something I call total reps. So you have a rep target, and you want to hit that rep target in as fewer sets as you can manage without ever hitting muscular failure. Um, Generally speaking, you'll probably want to use round numbers to do this. Okay, so as I said to you, I use sets of 25 to hit my rep target for my bodyweight squats. I do sets of 20 to hit my target, or to do the balance of hitting my target for push-ups, and then finish off with a set of 10. And pull-ups, same deal. You don't want to, the reason I say you don't want to hit muscular failure, particularly with bodyweight exercises, more so than anything really. It's not so much the risk of injury. There is a massively understated risk of injury with training to failure anyway, particularly in the weight room with machines and free weights. But with bodyweight training, I'd be lying if I said that risk is the same. It's not. It's objectively lower because it's only your body weight. But what it's still present. But more of a problem is how you end up fatigued, and then you end up either having to rest an age in between set to get your energy back. You have to rest an age, and then you go cold, or the workout just drags on, or you end up having to eke out the remainder of your reps in kind of sets of 2, 3, 4, 5. I say it just takes an age. It's boring. It's completely avoidable as well if you always stay kind of 2 to 5 reps shy of failure. And the challenge in the workout comes from the volume, not from going to failure, which is a bit of a cognitive shift that some struggle to make. My experience is anything to go by. Now, speaking of those rep targets, generally speaking, you want to do half, half, and half. Okay, so if you're doing 150 bodyweight squats, you'll want to do 75 push-ups, and this is where I wish Jess was here because she'd help me with the maths. And then 37-ish pull-ups. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. So 37 pull-ups. So half, half, and half. So if you're doing 100 bodyweight squats, probably should have done with the 100 really. So if you're doing 100 bodyweight squats, you'd want to do 50 push-ups and then 25 pull-ups. And that'll be the workout. And that's all that you do. And then you finish off with the repeat of the cardio that you started with. So I run a third of a mile back from the local park. You may hop on your exercise bike for another 2 or 3 minutes, whatever you're doing. And then the cool down, which is just the inverse of the warm up. So, well, it's not the complete inverse of the warm up, it's just the warm up again. So you walk. So you go down from a run or a cycle to a walk, a couple of minutes, or a very, very gentle cycle. And then you do those same stretches again, just a couple of stretches of each of the major muscle groups for, kind of 8 seconds a piece. And that's it. That's the body weight workout. You generally want to be doing this between 4 and 8 times a week. Yes, I said 8 times a week. I know there's only 7 days in a week. So you can do 2 a day with these if you're particularly fit. Please don't if you're not. Be realistic about how fit you are. I do 8 workouts a week and it's a real challenge. It's a slog. I don't enjoy it. But I'm doing it because I need to do it. I'm fit enough to justify it. If that's not you, don't do it. Do fewer. Jess does four or five, I think, workouts a week of these bodyweight workouts, and that's just fine for her. She also keeps the reps relatively low. I think she does 100 squats, 50 push-ups, and half push-ups. I'm going to mix the two we've mentioned, and then 25 pull-ups, which are generally just sets of she does inverted rows. Actually, she doesn't do pull-ups because she can't do pull-ups. She does 25 inverted rows. She is mixing in the odd hang for the time being. We tried her on negative pull-ups the other day, and yeah, it didn't end well. She nearly fell on me. So yeah, maybe in the near future for my gorgeous wife who's very hardworking. So yeah, that's the bodyweight training system. If you want to add a little bit of spice to it, you can get a weighted vest. I recommend the Gravity Fitness weighted vest, which you can get from Amazon. It's the best weighted vest I've ever tried. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get a kickback. I'm not an affiliate. Um, I've no benefit of telling you that other than there is no benefit in me telling you that. I don't get any kickback. So Gravity Fitness vest on Amazon. If you don't want the Gravity Fitness vest, don't cheap out with a weighted vest. Do buy a high quality vest. The reason I say that is a lot of weighted vests, the cheap ones, they don't sit right on your body. So I used to have a really, really cheap weighted vest. This is going back 10 or so years now, and it was horrific. It would pinch across my shoulders. Actually, I'm convinced it gave me a trapped nerve on my right arm, because it would pinch, and I wasn't able to run in it. It was very uncomfortable. It would move a lot while I was doing any body weight training. So really, all I could do with it was walk, which is obviously better than nothing. But this is kind of a bit pointless, really. You want to be doing a bit more in the weighted vest if you can. The other thing is that they don't. The Gravity Fitness vest has these 1 kilo iron. So they're all like bars of soap. They're each a kilo. And it's got a load of those to make up the weight. Very, very high quality. Most weighted vests that are cheap don't have that. They have these little bean bags, and obviously when they get wet and they break, and so it's just literally a case of buy nice or buy twice, and also buy nice so that you can get the benefit of the thing that you bought. That's my advice on weighted vests, anyway. Um, if you do use the vest, don't ever use the vest at the expense of form. So, if you can't do pull-ups in a weighted vest, don't try and do pull-ups in a weighted vest. Take the damn vest off. So my workout goes, I do my warm-up, then I put my vest on, then I run to the park, I do my squats and my push-ups with my vest on, I take the vest off, do the pull-ups, and then I do and then I pop the vest back on to do the cardio, take it off to do the cool down. That's how it works for me. That's how I would recommend anyone really do it. So don't put the vest on if you can't manage it. So that actually is the body weight training complete. And then there's the cardio element then. As I said, there's the endurance cardio. I recommend a couple of longish runs a week outside in the fresh air if you can. When I say longish, long is relative term. I'm not a gifted runner by any stretch of the imagination. I do 2 4 mile runs, and that's enough for me. Uh, this is a relatively new adventure. Prior to that, I was doing kind of 2 miles, 2.5 mile runs. They were working just fine in terms of the results they produced. And one of the things I find with running particularly is people try and do too much too soon. You've got your fat friend that does the marathon, and then they do the marathon. They don't do anything else for forever potentially until they run the next marathon because they completely screw their body over. Running shouldn't screw your body over, and it won't screw your body over, provided you're generally healthy and you stay well within what is comfortable and achievable for you. Point I make about cardio, irrespective of what it is that you do cardio to make you a better lifter. In this case, it's body weight, but obviously talking about the gym as well, lifting weights and stuff. Yeah, that's the purpose of cardio. You don't do cardio to get good at cardio unless you're planning on competing in cardio, which isn't most people. Yeah, so you can. This basically just means that you can get away with doing less and reserving your energy for the truly productive stuff, which is always your resistance-based work. But you do need to do it. If you don't want to cycle, if you don't want to run, sorry, because as I say, you have a roadman infestation, or you can't for whatever reason, then cycling is an acceptable alternative. I say acceptable alternative. It's not as good as running. I'm sorry, it's just not in terms of producing the adaptations that your typical person wants from cardio, which is physical and mental toughness and heart of iron and lungs of steel. You're not going to get that as easily from cycling, but sometimes needs must. There are some gaps in the program structure that I've just given you. This kind of 4 to 8 of the bodyweight workouts I mentioned and the 2 cardio sessions. First and foremost being abdominal work. You can, if you want to, add some abdominal work after pull-ups in the bodyweight workout. So kind of 1 or 2 sets of, say, leg raises or sit-ups or whatever it is you want to do. Or you can just do a little bit of ab work on your cardio day if you wanted to. So my granddad, rest his soul, he would go for his runs and he'd get home. And I remember I was a little kid and he'd do it. We'd lay on the floor. And I was only about 6, and he'd do our in this big house they had in Gosport, giant house. He was a retired naval officer, and in their big reception hallway, like an atrium. We'd lie on the floor, the wooden floor, and we'd do sit-ups. He'd be all sweaty. It's just what I remember, childhood. So that's an option if you want to do that. The other gap, most glaring gap, is vertical pressing. So pressing in a vertical plane. So if you think like overhead press. Very few people have the strength and neuromuscular control to do body weight variations of vertical pressing. Because we're talking handstand push-ups really. Most people, if they can manage something close to it, it's just a high incline horizontal press. So feet elevated push-ups, that sort of thing. It's not the same. Vertical pressing does challenge the body in a unique and very important way. So it's worth considering, supplementing that perhaps with one gym workout a week, or maybe even once a fortnight, where you do some overhead pressing with a barbell or dumbbells or something like that. You can also do that at home if you've got the equipment. You could acquire a barbell and some plates, or maybe a pair of dumbbells quite inexpensively, and they're relatively easy to store. I know most people, not most people, I know some people don't have space or whatever in their house for that, but if you in that case, just take out a cheap gym membership at 24-hour gym for 20 quid a month, or however much they cost these days. The other thing that's lacking is heavy leg work. So nothing. If you don't do some sort of heavy leg work, preferably kind of a squat variation, back squats or front squats with a barbell, your legs will shrink. It's hard to develop the legs without that heavy stimulus. So again, it's something that you could do. So you would perhaps have one workout a week or a fortnight, as I say, where you do your vertical pressing, your overhead pressing, and then some barbell squats. Probably a couple of sets towards the higher ends of the rep range, kind of 12 to 20 reps with a challenging load. A couple of sets of that, obviously with appropriate warm up and cool down as well. And the final thing that's perhaps lacking that needs to be made up is some sort of is like is density of reps in pulling. So something that could happen if you're not careful, if you do too much pushing and not enough pulling, is that you can end up with kind of a forward rounding of the shoulders. And you can get that even from like press up intensive workouts potentially. You see it sometimes in like young people, young lads, particularly if they're into like MMA fighting. They tend to be a bit rounded over because they do far too much pressing and not enough pulling work. The remedy for that's really simple. You just get a resistance band. You buy a cheap resistance band. Well, not cheap. You buy a quality resistance band. I say cheap because they're not very expensive. And you do 25 to 50 band pull aparts whenever you have the time, whenever it comes to mind. We've got one in our office, and I will, when I think about it, if I get up, go to the toilet or whatever, I'll just grab it and do a set of 25 to 50 band pull aparts. That will do wonders for keeping the shoulders and the upper back healthy and prevent any forward rounding. So that is, in a large, detailed, and admittedly meandering nutshell, my outdoor training system. I told you it was very, very simple and straightforward. And there are no bells and whistles with this, or indeed anything that I teach. So if that's the sort of thing you're looking for, then I am not the man for you. What kind of results can you get from this sort of training? Dramatic fat loss is the first one. I'm not exaggerating here. I have not experienced fat loss like what I've gotten from this training system since I did an absolutely ridiculous diet and monstrously intense training routine in the run up to my wedding and honeymoon that very nearly left me blind in one eye. It caused all sorts of retinal hemorrhages, and had they been one of them been a fraction of a millimeter close to my macula, I had a big hole in the center of my vision. So yeah, bullet dodged through nothing more than luck and providence. So that's the first result, is the fat loss. It is, and it is dramatic. Well, no, let me temper that a little bit. Because what I count as dramatic probably won't be dramatic to most people who spend time on the fitness internet. The fat will come off, your clothes will fit better, you will feel healthier, you will look better, you will look more vital, as Jess says, um, if you do what I say for long enough. You'll see the change because it's the sheer volume of work that you're doing and the cardio and stuff. It's basically impossible not to lose weight, lose fat, unless you eat like an idiot, which you shouldn't be doing anyway. Please don't tell me you don't know how not to eat like an idiot. You do. Yeah, if you don't need carers to get through the day, you do. So more of that, please. Less of the degen eating if that's a problem for you. And if it's genuinely a problem for you, and this is something that I always kind of snooker people with, if you genuinely are claiming that you don't know how to eat right and you can't eat right and it's totally beyond you, then you probably need to see either a psychologist or a dietitian or perhaps both. 'Cause you've got some issues with food. Very, very few people that I speak to tell me they find it completely impossible to follow a sensible diet, actually bother to go and do that. In fact, I don't know anyone who has, which suggests to me that they know deep down that it's a character issue rather than it is like a health or mental or psychological problem. So there we are. The other incredible benefit is this thing called general physical preparedness, which most people, including most people who train very hard in a gym, sorely lack. They sorely lack GPP because regular gym training just doesn't develop it. Yes, it develops you big muscles and even very incredible strength. You can get people. I know guys that deadlift over 250 kilos, for example, without ever taking a drug in their life, and they're not necessarily even like monstrously big guys either. They look pretty normal looking, but they're very fragile. They injure easily. They take a long time between sets, complain of fatigue, all of these things. And that all stems from a lack of this general physical preparedness, which is supposed to be developed during puberty and then continue through just like living a generally active lifestyle. So if you wind the clock back 50, 60, 70 years, most people were pretty okay on the GPP front because life demanded that of them. Nowadays it doesn't. So this sort of training, I would say, is a requirement for basically everyone, at least once a year to invest kind of 2 or 3 months into this kind of GPP focused body weight cardio with or without a weighted vest, just to lay that foundation from which results in the gym, through regular gym work, will obviously spring forth from. So there we are. All right, that is it. That's all I've got to say to you today. The last thing I'll say that's all I've got to say to you today. It isn't. I've got one more thing to say, and that's, if you want to find out more about working with me in either this capacity with the outdoor training or indeed any other capacity, there is a calendar below. You can book a call and we can talk for probably about an hour or so, well, up to an hour. So yeah, if you don't want to book a call, that's fine. If you do want to book a call, the calendar's below. I hope you found this informative and entertaining. Have a great day.